Now I want to ask you a question. Did you wake up this morning feeling lucky? I hope you did, because you should do. As a potential filmmaker, as someone who's gagging to make films, you are luckier than any generation before. It's so easy to make films now, and there's so many devices available at our fingertips that we can use to make films with. However, there are one or two essential items that we need to add to a basic camera kit in order to lift our material from dross and watchable dross to high-end professional watchable video. And once we've got the camera sorted, the first thing we need to bear in mind is the sound. Now, you can shoot nice looking pictures with your camera, but if the sound is inaudible or muffled or just poor quality, people will not watch, no matter how much you've worked out the story, no matter how good your pictures are. So you're going to have to do some basic things and get some basic pieces of kit in order to make sure you get decent sound. So there's a number of ways of doing that. Okay, time for some realism. No matter what camera you've decided to shoot with, whether it's a 10 quid job off eBay or whether it's something that's high-end and costs several £1000s from Canon or Sony or JVC, you will not be able to rely on the sound from the inbuilt microphones on any of these cameras. So that means at the very least, you're going to have to buy a cheap, separate microphone that will plug into your camera in some way. Whether it's a little lapel mic like the one I'm wearing here, or whether it's a small gun mic that sits on the top of your camera. You can get little gun mics that sit in the shoe of your DSLR and plug into the microphone socket on the side of your camera, which will give you a reasonably decent sound. They will be a million times better than the inbuilt microphones in your device. And again, I stress, the inbuilt microphones on any of these cameras will not give you good enough sound. So you're going to need a lapel mic on the end of a wire, or you're going to need a small gun mic that sits on top of the camera and plugs into the microphone socket. And you can get those for the price of a pint and a packet of crisps. You don't have to go high-end and buy something like this professional gun mic. A small, cheap microphone will be a massive step forwards, from the inbuilt microphones on whatever camera you choose to shoot with. Now, crucially, that does bring me on to one thing that we need to look out for on whatever camera you've chosen to shoot with. Your camera needs to have a microphone input so that you can plug an external microphone in. Some cheap, old, small camcorders don't have any microphone inputs, and that is a problem. But even that problem is not insurmountable. You can get separate digital recorders. Often digital recorders have decent microphones built in, but they certainly have microphone sockets into which you can plug your own microphones. So you can record the sound separately on a digital recorder whilst you record your video on your small camcorder. And in fact, that's how many feature films are shot. The sound and the film, the pictures are shot and recorded completely differently. So that's not a problem. And actually there's plenty of software out there, many of the edit systems out there will automatically synchronize that sound for you. But you are going to make your life easier if you have a microphone input or some kind of sound input on your camera. And in fact, most smartphones these days have microphone inputs or some way of getting external microphones into them. So even if you're shooting with a smartphone, you can get decent sound without having to rely on the inbuilt microphones, which again still adhere to the rule that I've just mentioned, which is you cannot record decent sound with the inbuilt microphones on any available camera. Now, if you want to step it up a level from the wired lapel mic or small gun mic on top of your camera, you can go all the way to the other end of the scale and get something like this professional gun mic here, but that's not going to cost you beer money. That's going to cost you a serious investment. What I think might be a good middle ground is a radio mic. Now, this is a professional radio mic kit. Here's the receiver. This sits on top of the camera, and here's the transmitter, and this sits on your contributor or your actor or whatever, and you put the microphone up underneath their shirt, and then this transmits the sound back to your camera that's received on this receiver. Now, these vary in price. They're not beer money, it's true. But equally, you don't necessarily have to go for these high-end professional kits to get decent sound. It means you have more flexibility, it means you can record sound from a distance, and it also means that you don't have the problem of wires going across the room and across everywhere, which can potentially be a hazard. So work out what your budget is and buy the right kit for you. But again, I stress, do not use the inbuilt microphones on your camera.